the moment Emily Carter's card was declined at the self-checkout. She felt the familiar sting of embarrassment rise in her chest. The machine beeped loudly, the screen flashing red, and she knew people behind her were waiting. It was just a grocery store in a quiet Washington town. But in that second, it felt like a spotlight was on her life on the late nights, the empty apartment, the feeling that she was falling behind everyone else her age. She tried the card again, declined. "I'm sorry," she muttered to the cashier, already reaching for her phone to transfer money between accounts. Her hands shook slightly. She hated moments like this. They reminded her how fragile things really were. "That's okay," the cashier said kindly. "Take your time." Emily nodded, forcing a small smile. She had just gone through a divorce, moved into a smaller place, and taken a job that paid less but felt safer. Still, safety came with a price. Every dollar mattered now. That was when a calm voice spoke behind her. "I've been there," the voice said gently. "No rush." Emily turned and saw a man standing a few feet back, holding only a basket with a few items: bread, coffee, and soup. He wasn't impatient. He wasn't annoyed. He just looked understanding. Just she finally fixed the issue, paid, and stepped aside quickly, hoping to disappear. But the universe had other plans. A few minutes later, in the cereal aisle, Emily paused again, staring at the shelves without really seeing them. Her mind replayed the checkout moment on a loop. She felt foolish for letting something so small affect her mood. She reached for a box. At the same time, another hand reached for the same one. "Oh, sorry," the man said, pulling back immediately. Emily looked up and recognized him from the checkout line. Up close, she noticed his eyes were soft, thoughtful, the kind that had seen disappointment but didn't let it harden him. "No, that's okay," she said. They shared a brief smile, one of those polite, forgettable moments strangers usually have. Emily took the cereal and moved on, fully expecting that to be the end of it. But then she saw him again, near the coffee aisle. "Either this store is small," he said with a light smile, "or we're following the same path." Emily laughed before she could stop herself. "Probably the store." "I'm Daniel," he said, not to forward. Not too shy, Emily. They stood there longer than necessary, talking about coffee brands, about how everything had gotten more expensive, about how grocery shopping had somehow become a weekly test of patience and budgeting. The conversation flowed easily without effort. Emily surprised herself by opening up just a little. She didn't share details, but she admitted life felt heavy lately. Daniel nodded, as if he understood without needing explanation. Sometimes all you can do is take it one aisle at a time. That simple sentence stayed with her. At checkout again, they ended up in the same line. This time, Emily didn't feel embarrassed. She felt calm. When Daniel paid, he glanced at her and smiled. "Nice running into you, Emily." "You too," she said. He took a step away, then stopped, hesitated. "There's a coffee place on Maple Street," he said. "If you ever feel like going, not as strangers." Emily's heart skipped, not loudly, but enough to notice. "I'd like that," she said. They exchanged numbers. Nothing dramatic. No promises. Just a quiet agreement as Emily walked home, grocery bags cutting into her hands, the streetlights glowing softly above her. She realized something had shifted. Not her life, not her problems, but her outlook. For the first time in a long while, the future didn't feel so empty, and she had no idea how much that small moment would matter. Daniel stared at his phone, the screen glowing in the dark of his living room. He had thought he was done with surprises, done with unexpected turns in life. His past had been careful, measured work, home, occasional visits with his daughter, predictable routines. Then Emily's name appeared on the screen, and suddenly nothing felt predictable. He typed and deleted his message 3 times before settling on the simplest words. "Good morning. Still up for that coffee?" He pressed send, and the waiting began. Each minute felt like a test. He wasn't sure if she would say yes, or if this spark he felt in the grocery store was just a fleeting thing. He tried to distract himself with the newspaper and a cup of coffee, but nothing worked. His mind kept wandering back to that small smile, the way her eyes had lit up with something soft and genuine. The reply came faster than he expected. "Yes. I was hoping you'd ask." His chest tightened. A small rush of excitement, a moment of relief, and something heavier too, a sense that this could really change things. He shook his head, trying to remind himself to stay grounded. He wasn't usually impulsive. Not anymore. But this felt different. Saturday morning arrived with a crisp chill in the air. Daniel arrived at the cafe first, taking a seat by the window. He watched the world outside, the joggers, parents with strollers, the usual weekend bustle, but his attention kept drifting to the door. He didn't have to wait long. Emily appeared, casual yet striking in her simplicity. A soft sweater, hair tied loosely, a familiar warmth in her step. She spotted him and smiled, and that tiny gesture made the morning feel brighter. "Hi," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. Her voice had that same gentle, unhurried quality he remembered from the store. "Hi," he said, a little awkwardly. Then, when the silence stretched, he added, "I'm glad you came." They ordered coffee, black for him, a latte for her. The first sips were quiet, almost ceremonial, a small pause before conversation. Then words began to flow. They talked about jobs that didn't exactly match their dreams, about friends who had moved away, about the strange comfort of familiar routines. They laughed at minor frustrations, at the challenges of being a grown adult navigating life alone. Emily shared stories of her small apartment, the book she was trying to read but never finished, the little joys she found in quiet Sundays. Daniel talked about his daughter, her laugh, how proud he was of her, and the complicated guilt of growing up and moving on. Every word revealed more of who they were, carefully peeling away the layers without feeling forced. Hours passed unnoticed. The cafe emptied around them, the barista sweeping the floor, the late morning sunlight shifting across their table. Neither of them mentioned the time. There was no rush, no urgency, just the simple presence of each other. When they left, they walked together down the street, the air crisp, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and coffee. The city around them continued its weekend rhythm, but they moved in a bubble, focused on each other. They noticed Dietzo's a stray dog, a street musician, the way a nearby tree was turning gold in the light. It felt alive, even in its simplicity. Over the next few weeks, their connection deepened. Coffee dates became morning walks. Walks became dinners at cozy neighborhood restaurants. Evenings were sometimes spent in quiet companionship, not needing words, just being near each other. They learned little habits, the way Daniel always arrived early, the way Emily held her spoon just so when she ate soup, the quiet hum of each other's routines. But life wasn't without hesitation. Emily had a past, a marriage that ended with respect but left scars, gentle but deep. Daniel had heartbreak too, and a protective shell around his heart he wasn't ready to tear open fully. Both knew the risks, both understood the potential for disappointment. They also knew that avoiding connection was no longer satisfying. One evening, as they stood outside Emily's apartment, the streetlights casting soft circles on the pavement, the tension finally broke. Emily spoke first, a whisper, almost afraid of being heard. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Me too," Daniel replied. His voice mirrored hers in honesty. "Scared of what?" she asked, looking up at him. "Of wanting this. Wanting you? More than I should." She studied him, saw the truth in his eyes. That reflection of her own feelings startled her. "I don't want to rush," she said softly. "But I also don't want to walk away." Daniel hesitated. His hand hovered in the space between them, just short of touching hers. "Then maybe we don't do either," he said. The words were careful but firm, a promise in their quiet restraint. They stayed there for a long moment, just breathing, letting the night settle around them. Love hadn't arrived with fireworks. It arrived with patience, with understanding, with the small courage to meet each other in the quiet spaces of their lives. It was tender, uncertain, and real. In the following weeks, they continued to explore this unexpected connection. Coffee shops, walks in the park, spontaneous dinners. and even shared tasks like grocery shopping, which had first brought them together. Each small moment added to the tapestry of something deeper. They laughed, they shared frustrations, they celebrated little victories. Every ordinary day had a hint of extraordinary now. Emily sometimes found herself back at the grocery store where it all began. She would glance down the cereal aisle, imagining Daniel reaching for the same box, the simple shared laugh that had sparked everything. She realized that the most profound moments often came quietly, unexpectedly, in ordinary places. Daniel, too, felt the change. His routine had been predictable, safe, and unremarkable. Now, every morning carried a little anticipation. Every message from Emily, every plan, every shared glance reminded him that life still had surprises worth taking a risk for. Neither rushed. They didn't need dramatic declarations or grand gestures. Their story unfolded naturally, with care and attention. Sometimes the most meaningful connections were built not on fireworks, but on the courage to let someone see your true self and the willingness to do the same for them. As winter began to soften into spring, they continued walking this path together. Coffee dates, shared errands, quiet evenings, and laughter became the rhythm of their weeks. And with each passing day, the trust between them deepened. The fear softened, and a gentle love grew, steady and enduring. Emily realized that life could change in a moment, in a smile, a shared laugh, or a simple touch of hands. Daniel understood that letting someone in didn't have to be reckless. It could be deliberate, slow, and deeply rewarding. Together, they found balance between caution and courage, hesitation and hope. And sometimes when Emily passed the cereal aisle in the grocery store, she smiled quietly to herself. That ordinary place had brought her the extraordinary. It reminded her that love didn't always begin with fireworks. Sometimes it began with a chance encounter, a shared smile, and the bravery to see where it might lead. In the end, their story wasn't about grand gestures. It was about the ordinary moments that became extraordinary because they were shared. It was about patience, understanding, and the quiet courage to choose each other over and over, even when life felt uncertain. And in that choice, they discovered something neither had expected, but both desperately needed: a gentle, enduring love that started in the most unlikely place and promised to grow steadily into the life they had always hoped for.